Soul. This week I thought I would discuss my experience with learning how to reparent myself in my mid-30s. I think at a very early age, I knew being a parent just wasn't going to be part of this present lifetime, mostly because I just didn't have a connection like most people have with their parents. I didn't grow up with parents who knew how to provide me with the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual nourishment I needed. But that's nothing against them. It's just they never knew or was taught how to take care of themselves and their own needs. So then in turn, they just passed down the conditioned coping mechanisms and their unresolved trauma. I mean, it's really impossible for anyone to fully meet someone else's needs all the time. I grew up in a household with parents who didn't know how to identify their own needs, and in turn, they betrayed themselves to receive love and validation. What I learned is that this builds a sense of resentment because they think people should just know what they need and they want, which is not realistic at all. And personally, I was someone who always wore a mask because I was scared that if someone knew the real me, that they would abandon me. But once I got sober, I learned that the only way to heal these wounds was to have the awareness that I could become the parent I needed when I was a child. I had to learn, or I should say, I had to relearn how to meet my unmet needs of my inner child through daily, conscious, dedicated action in the process of reparenting. But in order for the reparenting process to occur, I had to figure out and know what my needs and wants were and how to meet them. For most of my life, I had no idea what I needed or what I even wanted in life. I was just another sheep in the herd. But I built an authentic connection to myself when I started showing up for myself consistently every day in order to meet those needs. I had to take responsibility to learn tools in order to meet my own needs. I wasn't taught anything like that when I was growing up, because again, my parents weren't taught either. This process began by identifying my own physical, emotional, and spiritual needs, and then learning how to bring awareness to how I was conditioned in order to meet those needs. I learned that I took on the critical parent as an adult by rejecting my own needs, choosing the needs of others over my own, and denying my own reality. My intuitive voice was replaced with guilt, shame, and anger. As for most things in life, the reparenting process will look different for everyone. But once I was able to embrace compassion and self-respect, I began quieting the inner critic, which honestly never really goes away. But my wise inner parent was able to teach me how to honor and accept the needs of my inner child, who just wanted to be seen and heard and acknowledged and valued for who I was, not who I was expected to be. My wise inner parent taught me how to witness and validate my own feelings and reality instead of ignoring or judging them. Learning how to trust myself for the first time in my life was the first step in developing my wise inner parent. I had to learn how to build this trust within myself by setting and following through with small promises to myself every single day. The first habit I learned how to change was kindly speaking to myself as if I were talking to my inner child who was in pain. And one of the tools I learned was getting in the habit of asking myself, what can I do for myself in this moment? And the more frequently I would do that, it soon became an automatic response that reawakened my intuition. In the chapter Reparenting in Dr. Nicole LaPura's book, How to Do the Work, she explains the 4 pillars of reparenting. So the first pillar of reparenting is emotional regulation. of the skill to successfully navigate our emotional states. Emotional regulation is our ability to cope with stress in a flexible, tolerant, and adaptive way. I had to learn what certain emotions felt like in my body to fully understand how to witness the change in my body's sensations. It took practice and lots of awareness that when something doesn't feel right, my body will always communicate that. The second pillar is loving discipline. This pillar involves creating boundaries with ourselves that are maintained over time. I had to develop daily habits and routines while learning how to make and keep small promises to myself. I didn't grow up with discipline, and therefore, when I began cultivating it, I was about to show up for myself for the first time ever. I learned my morning and my bedtime routines are non-negotiables in my life. When I began showing up for myself every morning by getting up at 5 a.m. and learning to move my body, meditate, and journal, and then spending time getting ready for bed by unplugging 2 hours before bed, meditation, prayer, and a hot shower, I soon realized that in order to show up as myself, my most authentic self, I had to continue these routines so I could show up every single day. The third pillar goes hand in hand with loving discipline: self-care. Now, I know self-care gets a bad rap, but acts of self-care can take many forms. Drinking water, spending time in nature, journaling, moving my body, or spending time with a person who holds space for me. I grew up in a household that punished me for being bad, leaving me feeling rejected and judged. I had to prove to myself every day that I was worth showing up for, and I was able to feel a sense of resilience and reliability. I finally felt a sense of confidence that rippled out to other areas of my life. My self-care began with learning how to meditate. It began with 3 minutes of sitting in silence and has since increased to meditation for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes before bed. In the beginning, I lacked compassion for myself and was very rigid on my routine. But now I know that I have a strong foundation, and if I don't get both meditation sessions in, I'll be okay. I'll just do it tomorrow. Another form of self-care I perform daily is setting an alarm to get ready for bed. I find that my body starts to get into the mode of calming down from the day's events and just knows it's time to get ready for bed. Once I began taking my sleep seriously, I began showing up happier. Did you know that sleep lengthens our lives as well as strengthens our cognitive abilities? I know, right? Something so simple. The fourth and final pillar, Dr. Nicole LaPera explains, is to rediscover our childlike sense of wonder. This state is made up of creativity and imagination, joy and spontaneity, and playfulness. As I began to heal childhood trauma, I brought awareness to the fact that I wasn't raised in a household that valued creativity. I don't have memories of my parents playing with me, and honestly, that's sort of sad. I remember being told, "Go play outside, I have work to do." Or "Go outside, you're bothering me." But it's a sad reality that most parents were like that because they didn't know any better, because that's what their parents did to them. When I got sober, I rediscovered things I loved to do as a kid. I started coloring again. I loved to put on music and dance in my kitchen. I rediscovered my love for making jewelry, more specifically, bracelets that I wear every day. I have a sense of pride knowing that I made this and my inner child loves it. The process of reparenting myself has taken years and it's been in phases, but I can confidently say anyone, and I mean anyone, can reparent themselves. It takes time and it won't be easy, but the feeling of knowing that our parents' lack of emotional maturity had nothing to do with me and everything to do with them is so freeing. I know that my inner healing is a priority for me in order to show up as my most authentic self. I will admit that it was very lonely at times because I felt like no one understood where I was coming from. Until I came to understand that no one will ever understand me, but there will be souls who can empathize with me because humans are more alike than different. We just want to be seen, heard, accepted, loved, and acknowledged for who we are in our most authentic form. You know, I don't share these experiences to try and get someone to go on their own healing journey. I more like to think of it as being a guiding light for someone who is on their healing journey or someone who does want to start their healing journey, and to know that you are never, ever alone, ever. And the first step to change is really wanting to change, and you are the only one that can do that for yourself. So, as always, I am so grateful for you stopping by in my small corner of the internet, and I hope to see you next week.